Hey guys, welcome back to the new video, and this is a requested video because a lot of you guys want to understand the path of how you can learn bug bounty hunting or how you can learn pen testing or learn about web and API security in general. So this is a dedicated video for it, and if you are someone who's a beginner or even if you're someone who know the basics but want to advance a bit more, I think this video is for you and you should watch until the end because I'm going to talk about certifications as well and how you can land a job as well, not just bug bounty hunting. So it's like a whole path plus guide kind of thing. Okay, so I have created a graph. Actually, I was working on it and it's completed. So let me just maximize the screen. It's not too complex, I'll simplify it. Okay, so first we have this block of programming basics. So if you're someone who is total beginner, or even if you're someone who know a few languages, let's say you know Python, but you can learn other languages as well. Meanwhile, the things that are really important when it comes to web and API security is JavaScript, Python, SQL, Bash. Why am I mentioning JavaScript here? Because JavaScript is how all the web applications are built. You look at the source page and you'll definitely see a source of JS file. Okay, so you really need to understand the syntax of it, and there's a lot of free resources over the internet and on YouTube where you can learn JavaScript. And yeah, if you don't know HTML, you can learn that too. It would really help you when you are working with XSS or different kind of vulnerabilities. You can also learn JSON and XML, like their syntax, which is pretty easy actually, but this will help you in cases where you want to exploit the XML injection. Next up, we have Python. Why am I suggesting Python is because it helps you build tools. So there are a lot of tools available in the market that helps you do enumeration, exploitation, and a lot of them are written in Python and Go as well. So, but you can start with Python because it's really easy to understand and everything, but just don't learn the syntax. You need to also learn how loops work, how functions work, how conditions work. Understand the logic behind it, and every programming language will become easy for you. Next up, we have SQL. I'm suggesting SQL because using this, you can understand how databases work, how you can create databases to retrieve information, to retrieve different rows and columns, how things work. Because if you understand SQL, you can also exploit SQL injection further. And then the last one we have is Bash. I'm suggesting Bash. So learning Bash, it can help you doing automation, and you're going to work in Linux environment, right? Which is very important. I know a lot of you have seen one-liner for this vulnerability. You can just copy paste it, but if you're just doing that, you're not going to understand how it's actually working. That's why you need to understand Bash. Great, now you understand the role of programming languages, and of course there are tons of languages in the market, but when you want to start, you want to build your base, and this is your base, this whole block. Okay, now let's move on to the next block, which is web fundamentals. Now this is really important, but a lot of people just skip on this part. They just move on to the web vulnerabilities kind of thing, where they just start learning about vulnerabilities or even exploiting it, but that's not going to work if you don't understand this block. People underestimate, they think they understand what is HTTP and HTTPS because they just see it normally. But if someone asks you a question, okay, what actually is HTTP? Are you able to answer it? What's the status code? What is the role of the status code? Are you able to answer that? If yes, then okay, you can go ahead. But if no, then you need to learn this thing. So we have HTTP and HTTPS. You need to understand these two. You need to also understand how request and responses work, not just like sending a GET request and getting a response, getting 200. Okay, no, I'm not talking about that. When I say request, I mean understand the body of the request, the parameters that are involved in the request, how data is sent, and everything. So you gotta understand every part of it. Okay, and then we have HTTP methods. You need to understand every HTTP method, how it works, get, post, put, patch, delete, learn about it, make notes about it, how it works. Because even though this seems really small thing, but understanding HTTP requests is really important, because when you're going to test for vulnerabilities, you're going to create your custom request, and in those requests, you need to modify HTTP methods to test if a vulnerability exists or not. So if you don't understand HTTP methods, you won't even think of, okay, there is a case where I can modify it and test for vulnerabilities. Sometimes the vulnerability doesn't exist in get method, but it does exist in post method. If this doesn't make sense to you, what I just said, then you really need to focus on this part first. But people who are watching, who know the basics, they understand what I'm talking about, because there are so many cases where you can find vulnerabilities that you didn't think of. So next up we have status codes. Just give it a read, learn about every status code, understand how it works, that's all. And then headers. I would say this is really important. You need to understand how headers work. What's a cookie header, what's an auth header, what's content type. CORS, really important. You need to understand how CORS works, what different kind of policies it uses, what headers, what values, and everything, okay? Because you cannot exploit CORS if you don't understand what CORS is in the first place. Okay, now let's move on to the third block we have here is tools to start with. Now this could be the fourth block as well, but I just want to mention it here to give you a head start of different tools that you need to keep in mind while you're learning. Just explore them, okay, if you're a total beginner. And if you know about these tools, then that's really great. Just try playing with them more so you can understand all the features. Okay, so first we have is Burp Suite, which everybody knows. Play around with it, understand how you can modify requests and responses, how you can do response manipulation, what HTTP history is, how you can filter stuff, how intruder works, how repeater works, and everything. Play around with it. Next up we have is API. For both API and web, we have Postman. So Postman, if you are testing APIs, or if you have a lab and you have like JSON body and you want to test APIs, go with Postman. If you want to understand like how to test API bugs with Postman, you can watch the playlist from the I button. And the next one we have is Browser DevTools. Okay, this is going to help you a lot. Many times you don't even need Burp Suite to identify vulnerabilities. For example, excessive data exposure. This is a vulnerability. You can just identify it using Browser DevTools. All you have to do is keep it on, inspect element, and then just start browsing all the features. If you see any response that is disclosing any sensitive information, then there you have a bug and you didn't even need to use any tools. The next up we have is curl. So by using curl, you can test vulnerabilities but in command line. Next up we have is Nuclei, which I think a lot of you know. Nuclei helps you identify vulnerabilities through Nuclei templates, which is pretty much like automation, but I won't suggest you to rely too much on automation when you're starting out. You can definitely use Nuclei when you have everything in place, like you understand every vulnerability, then you can definitely use it. And then we have is SQL map. For database scan. So this will help you identify SQL injection vulnerabilities and other database related vulnerabilities that you want to find out. So just wanted to give you a quick update of these tools. There are tons of tools, a lot of tools I've talked about in this channel as well. But yeah, you got the point. Okay, now this part is done. Let's move on to the next part we have is web application architecture. What you were thinking, I'm going to talk about web vulnerabilities? No, this is not how it works, guys. You guys jump right into vulnerabilities, I know. Okay, so first we have here is front end versus back end, and this is about understanding client versus server-side architecture. How the client and server side works. You need to understand that. How client communicate with the server. Ask yourself this question. You're gonna find a lot of resources on the internet, or you can just ask it to ChatGPT and understand how things work. Keep asking questions. So you need to understand databases. I told you SQL, no SQL, understand their queries. You can find amazing resources about these and cheat sheet on PodSwigger Academy. So you can definitely learn about this from there. Next one we have is learn about APIs. Understand how REST APIs work, GraphQL work. So REST APIs, I have uploaded tons of videos on it, and GraphQL, I also have a playlist on it. You can definitely go there and learn about how GraphQL actually works, and you can learn about REST API vulnerabilities as well as GraphQL vulnerabilities. Just browse my channel, guys. You're going to see tons of resources there, and I'm thinking to upload more resources on these as well soon. Another one we have is authentication and authorization, which is the part of core security. This is so much important. Like, you need to understand how authentication works, how cookies work, and how it authenticates the user, how it keeps the session of the user, how session fixation works, how session expiration works, how JSON Web Token works. And there are so many vulnerabilities that are related to JSON Web Tokens itself, and I have uploaded videos on that as well that you can see from the I button if you want. And another we have is authorization. So if you are a normal user and you're able to access data of an admin user, then it's an authorization bug. Or if you're able to escalate your privileges to the admin level using some cookies that were exposed or some token, or by exploiting JSON Web Token, you can call it authorization bug. What could be an authentication bug? It could be a 2FA bypass, or it could be like to be able to access the data of a user who is as the same privilege level as you, like who has the same role. Again, not as a high level. So you need to understand how different roles works as well. I need to really point that out. Hope you guys are making notes whatever I'm saying. Okay, so next up we have is OWASP. Learn about Web OS top 10. This is so much important. You need to learn about all the vulnerabilities that are listed in the OWASP top 10 as well as the OWASP API top 10. So I have talked about OWASP API top 10 in my videos. Check out the playlist from the I button to learn about these bugs that I've mentioned. And of course, if you have any questions, you can ask it in my Discord server. Okay, now you can see there are some paths that I've drew. Okay, so we have is client versus server architecture. Ask yourself this question: what should never be trusted from front end? Can you answer it right now? I give you 5 seconds. Okay, so here's the answer. So every feature, let's say comment section, search bar, user parameter that is going or like helping user filter products or stuff, anything that is passing through the request that contains user input shouldn't be trusted. Okay, because it's coming from the front end, it can be modified with tools like Burp Suite. So ask yourself this question, make a list of it, and actually these are the cases where the vulnerability arises. Like if you ask yourself question, how IDO arrives? If you have a request has a parameter ID, okay, and you have ID in it. Now if you think about it, this is actually coming from the front end. It means it can be modified. And that's why it's really important to check it in the backend, okay? So if it's not getting verified properly, if the ID is coming from the user who requested it or not, then it can cause IDO vulnerability. Yeah, so that's why this question is really important for you to ask. And next up we have is how data is stored and queried. This is homework for you guys. These are the questions I want you to ask and just make notes out of it if you're a beginner. But if you think you're confident enough and you know how these things work, then that's really amazing. So if you know how data is stored and queried, then you understand how databases work, and in this case you will be able to understand how SQL injection work and how non-SQL injection work, no SQL injection. So yeah. Next up we have is understand JSON based communication and understand stateless nature of APIs. Okay, so understand how JSON works, how the structure is, how data is passed, how the server responds and everything. Obviously you can read it on the internet. I'm not going to like explain everything. I'm giving you a guide here, okay? It's a lot to cover in a single video. So if you want me to suggest a book for it, I would say go for Hacking APIs by Corey J. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So this book is really amazing. Actually, I gave it a read. I finished the whole book and it helped me understand everything like A to Z about APIs, how things work, and obviously about the vulnerabilities that comes in APIs as well. So yeah, a really good book that you can go with. Okay, so for authentication and authorization, I want to give you a few points so you can understand. Understand the username password flow, the most basic flow. Understand session-based authentication. Understand token-based authentication like JWT, which is really important because it's used a lot in web application nowadays. Understand access token versus refresh token. Understand the OAuth flow. By the way, I've created a dedicated video on, oh, also that you can watch from the I button. Then learn about common mistakes like weak session handling, token leakage, long-lived tokens. So these are some common mistakes. And then in authorization, learn about role-based access controls, RBAC, object-level authorization, function-level authorization. And learning this, you will understand how authorization bugs work, like IDOR and back vulnerabilities broken access control, which is literally top one in OWASP, top 10, the web ones. Okay, so I have given you some points here and hopefully you can work on that. Great. Now we are done with the web application architecture, okay? That's great. Now let's move to the next one. What we have. Okay, it's here. We have labs. This is really important, really fun part. Understand about labs. First we have is obviously Bootstrigger Web Security Academy, where you can learn a lot because there are so many labs on specific vulnerabilities. You're gonna find so many labs on XSS, SQL injection, IDOR, broken access controls, and API vulnerabilities as well, which they have added. And the next up we have is OWASP Juice Shop, and you can learn about that as well. It has tons of challenges that is really fun to solve. Few of them already have covered my channel. Okay, next one we have is BWAP and DVWA. You can do both or either one. They both can really help you understand and practice vulnerabilities. Then we have challenges like you can do THM or HDB. THM has paths, you can definitely do that, and HDB is more like challenges. Or you can use a cryptsec, which I have covered in the last video, and new video will be coming soon, by the way, so stay tuned. And for API specific, you can obviously go with Bootstrigger API Labs, and then you have CR API. I have created a playlist on CR API as well that you can watch from the I button. And then we have API Sec Universities. So you can clone it from Git and set these up in your local machine and start practicing in. So when you are testing in CR API or API Sec University, you can test it in Postman. So this way you can learn about API bugs as well as Postman. Okay, done with the practice labs. Now we can move to I think the last section. No, not the last one. We have is bug bounty mindset. Okay, the part you might be probably very much interested in. Bug bounty mindset. First point we have here is read write-ups. So read write-ups of other people bugs, how they find the vulnerabilities and how they did it. I want you to save it, learn about it, make notes. The thing I've noticed is a lot of people do like share their write-ups on the internet or on Medium, but they don't explain like how it happened, like a lot of it I would say. But there are a lot of people who like host blogs on their own website and they explain it in very detail. So if you research, you will definitely find some write-ups where they explain it. But let's say even if you found a write-up and you didn't get what that person is saying, you can ask yourself questions and like ask GPT to help you understand how the bug actually worked. So you can definitely learn from that as well. So next one we have understand logic flaws, and then another is don't rely only on scanners, which I already mentioned before. If you understand the bugs first and then you are using scanner, then that's a really good idea, otherwise just don't. Read reports. Read a lot of reports on my channel. I have broken down tons of reports and I'm going to do that more. Okay, so I want you to read those reports, understand how things works, make notes, start applying it on your next hunt. But the thing is, you know what, even though I've covered a lot of reports, those videos still have less views, so you can understand how people don't want to understand things, how it works. But if you look at people sharing their tools, you will see tons of views in such videos. I don't want to do that. I don't want to share one liner and just tools and stuff to show you how things works and you're not really understanding anything. That's gonna help you short term, but definitely not long term, and definitely not gonna land you a job as well. So that's why I focus so much on these things, reports, write-ups. And yeah, the fourth point we have is just the fifth point, start hunting. Don't like waste so much time. Let's say you understood how $5 work. Let's say you understand how SQL injection works, how IDO works, how XSS works. Let's say you understand just $3, okay? And then you can start hunting, okay? You did labs on this, you understand these one perfectly. You can start hunting for XSS, SQL injection, and IDOR. And meanwhile you do that, you can start learning about other bugs as well. So you should keep this together so you're not wasting any time. That's a really good approach, actually. And my last point is update LinkedIn. Yeah, because a lot of people, what they do, they are not active on LinkedIn. I would suggest you to be active. I know it's kind of lame. I found it lame too, but it's really going to help you land a job, whatever you're learning, challenges you're solving, found any bug, share it on social media, share it on LinkedIn. Build your profile. It's going to help you, okay? Okay, so let's move on to the next block we have here is search. And this is actually the last block in this flow chart. And the first one we have here is BSCP. So this is Burp Suite Certified Practitioner. So this one focuses on manual web vulnerability discovery and has a lot of realistic labs about access control and stuff. So all the certs mentioned here are actually related to Web and API, because this flowchart is dedicated to Web and API. That's why I've mentioned these certs. So if you understand OS Top 10, OS API Top 10, how things work and everything, you can definitely go with this cert, which is a really good one and is accepted by the industry a lot. Second one we have is API Sec Certified Expert. So this one is totally API. If you understand OS API Top 10, you have solved CR API or challenges, you understand how API bugs work, you can definitely go with this one, and yeah, it will look really good on your resume. And the next one we have is EWPDX. So this is advanced web penetration testing. So if you have done BSCP, the next thing you want to do is EWPDX. Here you will learn about chaining web vulnerabilities and how advanced web vulnerabilities work. So if you have solved all that, you understand every vulnerability, how it works, how chaining works and everything, you can definitely go with this one. Okay, and the last one we have is OSWE. This is literally expert level cert. Offensive Security Web Expert. So it focuses on source code review and white box exploitation. So it teaches you how to find bugs by reading code. So now you're getting why learning programming languages is really necessary. Like when you're expert, you need to find vulnerabilities by reading code. That's what this cert is testing you for. So if you think you're really good, you have done EWPTX, you can go with this one, and a lot of resources online, they provide courses and everything. So yeah, you can definitely go for it. But now you can see how the whole path actually looks like. You can watch this video again if you're missing something out and make notes of it definitely, and share it with your friends who really needs it if you really like the video. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching it, and now you have a better idea of how you can follow this path of learning web and API security, be a bug bounty hunter, I don't know, a penetration tester, security researcher, or a security engineer, and all of that. This is going to help you. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.